Hello everyone, Ruhi Çenet here. Welcome to Hiroshima. It's August 6, 1945, 8:15 a.m. in the morning. The American plane named Enola Gay took off from Tinian Island in the Pacific towards Hiroshima, Japan with a nuclear warhead loaded. Hiroshima was an industrial and port city built on a river delta in the Seto Inland Sea. The plane dropped the nuclear warhead from a height of 9,470 meters into the heart of the city and quickly turned back to get away from the city. Just after 43 seconds, the nuclear warhead at an altitude of about 580 meters before even reaching the ground exploded over Hiroshima at 8:15 a.m. when people were going to their work. Within seconds, the energy released from the splitting of uranium atom first caused a blinding flash of light and was followed by intense heat. Earth temperatures had risen to 4,000 degrees Celsius or 7,200 degrees Fahrenheit. And these flame storms traveled 440 meters per second or 1,400 feet per second and instantly spread out into the heart of Hiroshima. Everything melted instantly, including people. About 80,000 people have lost their lives within just seconds. Even the hardest solid objects had turned into sand. An 18-kilometer long or 59,000 feet long mushroom cloud had formed, and simultaneously incredible amounts of radiation were scattered everywhere. Homes, offices, parks, life had been completely erased. 70% of the buildings in the city had been either destroyed or damaged. Then black clouds had formed, which caused rain, and people unfortunately had drunk the rainwater, namely acid rain that fell from these clouds. Because of this rain containing radioactive materials, those people gradually had lost their lives with no possibility of a cure. Twice as many of those who lost their lives by the blast had passed away by radiation and fires. Of course, its effect caused thousands of others to get skin tumors, leukemia, and other types of cancers, or to be born disabled or sick. Many people's genetic structures have changed. There are still many victims even today. About 350,000 people were living in Hiroshima at that time, and according to the report issued by Japan, about 140,000 people lost their lives in a few months. But when we fast forward 75 years, the city was already back to life, and the lessons learned from the past were all over the city. A 91-year-old gentleman who had personally experienced the day of the blast of the nuclear warhead came to us while walking his dogs with high energy when he realized that we wanted to interview him.
I was born here. You can see the tram over there.
Yeah.
Just the downside of the river, the mountain, have some military barracks. We have a military hospital. My father, he was a military doctor. At the day of atomic bomb drop, he wanted to go to the hospital. At the time of waiting for tram, he wanted to smoke. And just later the cigarette and tram came in. Cigarette is at that time so precious, so important, so high price. He would like to let it off. Okay, I'll wait.
Wow, very impressive.
So the laziness of my father or cigarette helped my father's wife and also me. My mother, she is a lieutenant. 8 in the morning in the summertime, so noisy. The birds or cicadas or some bugs, insects. But at the time of atomic bomb drop, and even the insect, even the birds know something. All silence comes here. She felt something wrong because normally so noisy. Hot humidity day in the morning, no birds singing, no insects calling.
Yeah.
So she felt something wrong. Then house is blown out. I was living here. I know what's happening.
What do you think about Americans?
Americans don't like to come here because they feel some guilty. But we haven't said American is bad.
Yeah.
We didn't say that.
Time changed.
Half is our fault. One thing sure is my father and mother doesn't blame any Americans.
They blame the war.
Us.
Yeah.
So this is the reason I speak English. When the American army come here, the English education is obligation. We have to learn. But when I was 9 years old, my mother insisted me to go to the cram school. So I said, Mom, I don't know what they're talking. I cannot speak even Japanese well, but my mother insists me speak English.
Yes.
Tears dropped her eyes and said, "Oh my poor boy. You know we lost the war. If you cannot speak, you want to be another loser? You want to lose again?" So this is the reason I speak English.
You speak very well, sir.
No, not for that.
How old are you, sir?
I was 91 or 92. I talk too much?
No.
Okay, just wait a minute. Could you follow? This is my name card. My name is Asai.
Nice to meet you.
This is my dog.
Wow.
And I say,
Genbaku-dome, which is only 150 meters away from center of the blast, was built with solid concrete construction to prevent it from collapsing in case of an earthquake. It was one of the few buildings that remained intact, but despite its strong structure, everyone inside was turned into ashes within seconds of the blast. And in the Hiroshima Peace Memorial Museum, there are visual exhibitions and arrangements prepared using today's technology. In addition, from the remaining clothes of the victims to the personal stories of the lost lives, all the shocking details here are enough to take you back to that day. The flame in the middle has been burning continuously since 1964. It will continue to burn until all nuclear warheads in the world are removed and the nuclear threat is completely wiped out from the world. The Fukuramachi building is an elementary school near the blast site. About 160 students and teachers had lost their lives here. There are many ruins inside the building, and only 100 meters away is the statue of Sadako Sasaki. Here's the story. A 2-year-old girl named Sadako and her family are fortunately unharmed when the nuclear warhead fell within 2 kilometers of their home. The family rejoicing that they weren't physically injured at first glance, they sent their daughter to school like her peers until 1954. It is later discovered that the little girl had blood cancer when she suddenly falls while running at the school, and strange swellings are discovered both on her neck and behind her ears. People around her told the little girl if she makes 1,000 paper cranes, she will be healed. Filled with hope, Sadako started folding papers in a hurry, but she didn't live long enough to fold 1,000 cranes. The girl who hoped to live made 644 cranes during her stay in the hospital, then passed away. Today, children around the world continue to fold the rest for her. 1,000 cranes have been folded more than 1,000 times. All these paper cranes are displayed around this monument, and at the Orizuru Tower, visitors can make their own paper cranes. So I made one for myself and threw it down from the 12th floor. The paper I threw was mixed in with Sadako's dream. Japanese people have no dislikes for Americans. They believe peace education is important. In schools, teachers and textbooks don't blame the Americans but blame the war. They believe this is the key for taking next steps forward. Hondori Shopping Street is the heart of the city. It is a busy spot in the city for shopping and walking around in the evening. We can see how Hiroshima became what it is today. The site of the nuclear blast has now become a thriving park surrounded by life. Today, the city is a vibrant metropolis with a population of 1.2 million people. It is rapidly developing as a major port, industry and tourism city. While learning from the past, it never gets stuck to the past and just focuses on the future. They gave me an origami bird. 3 days later, US dropped a nuclear warhead on Hiroshima. It dropped another one on the city of Nagasaki. These were the warheads dropped on World War II more than 75 years ago. Now they have become even more powerful. The nuclear warhead dropped on Hiroshima created a blast of 15 kilotons, which corresponds to the strength of 15,000 TNT. If this nuclear warhead had exploded in the city center of New York, it would have looked like this. The radius of the area affected by the blast would have been approximately 1.5 kilometers. The yellow circle shows the radius of the fireball that was released as a result of the blast. Within the red circle, the rate of loss of life would have been almost 100%, and all concrete structures would have been either completely destroyed or severely damaged. Most of the settlements inside the black circle would have been destroyed, and there would be a great loss of life and injury. The orange circle indicates the area where third-degree radiation burns occurred. But the destructive power of this blast looks nothing compared to B-83, the most powerful thermonuclear weapon in the US inventory today. B-83, produced in 1970s, will have been produced a blast of 1,200 kilotons. That is 80 times the size of the blast in Hiroshima. This corresponds to the power of 1.2 million tons of TNT. If it had been launched on New York, radius of the area affected by the blast will have been over 11 kilometers. There is also the largest nuclear warhead ever tested by the United States under the name Operation Castle Bravo in 1954. It produced an explosion of 15,000 kilotons, that is more than 1,000 times of the blast in Hiroshima. If it had been launched on New York, the radius of the area affected by the blast would have been over 35 kilometers. However, there is a nuclear warhead even more powerful than that. This one detonated on October 30, 1961, called the Tsar Bomb by the Soviet Union, is the largest that has been ever detonated. It caused a blast of 50,000 kilotons, that is more than 3,300 times the size of the nuclear warhead dropped on Hiroshima, and the resulting mushroom cloud was so tall that everything on Earth seemed tiny in comparison. If it had been launched on New York, the radius of the area affected by the blast would have been over 50 kilometers and still be visible even from space.
The Tsar nuclear warhead was produced more than 50 years ago, and it is estimated that there are 15,000 nuclear warheads in the world today. If the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty had not been signed in 1963, the world would now be home to much more powerful nuclear warheads. Last but not least, I want to tell you the story of Tsutomiyamaguchi.
Yamaguchi used to work for Mitsubishi, which we now know as a car brand, and he visited Hiroshima on a business trip in August 1945. Realizing that he had forgotten his ticket stamp on the way to the train station, which was near to the detonation site, he returned to his office, which was a little further from the detonation point, and at that moment he witnessed the first nuclear warhead floating in the sky. A sudden and intense flash followed by the blast ruptured his eardrum, temporarily blinded him, and caused severe burns on the left side of his body, but he was still alive. He spent the night in the bunker and his wounds were not taken care of. The very next day he somehow dragged himself to the station, left Hiroshima and returned back to his town. He was eventually able to get some treatment for his wounds at home. Despite being severely injured and heavily bandaged, he informed Mitsubishi 2 days later that he had returned from his business trip to Hiroshima and he could work now. The fact that he went to work as if nothing major had happened shows us the crazy Japanese work ethic. You might consider Yamaguchi lucky to have survived the nuclear warhead in Hiroshima, but he was unlucky about returning home, which is Nagasaki. While he was telling his manager at work about his crazy Hiroshima experience, Nagasaki was hit with the second nuclear warhead ever dropped in the world. Once again, he came up against an intense glow, solved the blast, and survived to return to work again.
Thank you for watching the first video that I shot in Japan. 2 more videos will come from this amazing country. I shot videos in Pakistan, Yakutsk and Tanzania. If you want to support me and my team, I now enable the join button on my YouTube channel. The link will be at the top of the description box. I will continue to bring valuable information to your doorstep. It is up to you to support these independent documentaries. Documentaries with comprehensive approach. Ruhi Çenet was here.